When the Galactic Concorde finally reached out to Earth, it was to invite a human to Vorthon Prime University. Humans had been a hot topic for decades across the galaxy. Most species considered us fascinating, some terrifying. You send us your student, we teach them our ways and maybe learn a thing or two ourselves. The customs officer, a being made of translucent glass named Ukes, blinked nervously at the mountain of boxes that Chase had brought. To start, his first class was comparative astrophilosophy. The instructor had no visible limbs and a voice that seemed to exist outside of normal hearing. Most beings tuned into their lecture med goggles, but Chase sat in the front row, taking notes and drawing pictures. Next to his seat, the being that introduced itself as Professor Jellyfish Tentacles watched Chase doodle spaceships and write. Professor Jellyfish needs a hug in big block letters. The being found Chase's behavior perplexing. On his customs form, the space next to purpose of visits said broaden cultural horizons. 17 students ended up in the medical wing after trying his Texas heat surprise. Then there was his impromptu lecture on interstellar ethics. Chase wondered aloud whether it was ethical to prank wormhole security checkpoints using fake black hole decals. No one knew if he was joking or not. Another compared him to a gravitational singularity of charisma and ignorance. But Chase just shrugged, turned up the outlaw country music, and went back to work. Because while everyone else was distracted by his charm, Chase was busy building something in the machine shop. Out of scrap metal, powered by solar panels and fueled by jet fuel, he was making a robot. And no one noticed until it was almost finished. But that's a story for another time. By the end of the first week, the university staff filed an emergency report. Subject exhibits erratic, disruptive behavior, refuses protocol, overuses idioms such as y'all and ain't, may be contagious, recommend containment. And the box labeled important stuff contained chili powder, a rubber chicken, a harmonica, and a sealed glass bottle that said Carolina Reaper sauce. At first, other students were confused by Chase's antics. Why did he keep asking for more napkins? Why did he seem so amused by a simple game of charades? Why did he insist that the word Farstrider sounded suspiciously like a certain brand of cigarettes? But slowly, they began to enjoy it. Well, not exactly enjoy, not in the traditional sense, not admire. Obsess, his seminar, How to Win Arguments Using Sarcasm and BBW, drew a crowd of more than 300 students. He explained human logic by likening interstellar treaties to the rules of monopoly. And when a tentacle-faced diplomat argued that Earth's laws didn't apply to non-humans, Chase deadpanned. Oh, so that S like me saying that I am not gone, nah pay rent because I'm not a land mammal. Danger. Wear gloves. Ukes stared at it. Is this really necessary? Oh, y'all don't have to wear gloves, Chase said cheerfully. But if you're scared, maybe put a hazmat suit over your box. Chase might have looked like he belonged, but he didn't act like it. His mirrored sunglasses, faded NASA hoodie, and general air of get off my lawn suggested otherwise. The plan was for Chase to be supervised, monitored, and most importantly, kept under control. The Concorde put together a 12-page handbook explaining why humans were a potential liability to interstellar society. According to their research, humans tended to be messy. Their conflicts were long, loud, and often nonsensical. So the Concorde decided that to protect their precious university, Chase should attend as an unranked observer. He would sit in the back of lectures, no speaking parts, no interactions, just take it all in. The Concorde wanted to know, were we too dangerous to let into the wider universe? Or could we maybe make a go of it? They chose Vorthon Prime, basically the galactic version of Harvard. And they sent one human, one semester, and we're going to call him Chase. Now, this was supposed to be a simple cultural exchange. He also arrived with some gifts. Okay, fine. That's actually not accurate. He arrived with a lot of gifts. And then there was his behavior. By day 3, he had organized a chili eating contest in the university food hall. But something strange happened. It wasn't all sunshine and roses, though. At least one professor branded him culturally dangerous. This is a Vorthong University campus tour with your host, Chase Walker, exchange student from Earth. Welcome to the heart of campus, the Infinite Concourse. Designed by our esteemed xenolinguist and former Chancellor Glebklorp, its geodesic dome allows for optimal distribution of ambient grow lights, while still maintaining natural atmospheric cycles. Very cozy if you like your planet-sized bubbles filled with artificial sunlight. Anyway, we call it the bubble because it looks like a bubble, which means it's perfect for frisbee. Wanna play? Awesome. Or maybe you prefer to meditate in the koi pond. No judgment here, unless you're playing frisbee in the koi pond. Watch your step because you never know what you might step on around here. Some say you can learn a lot about a culture by studying its art. And nowhere is that more true than in the sculpture garden where the works are alive. Just watch out for those tentacles. You don't want to get squirted. Also, I'm sorry, is that the Messiah complex statue? Why does it look like he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders? Is that supposed to be inspiring? What's that mean? Oh, hey, wait, are these hot wings? Yes. Okay, so this is the campus quad. We'd like to gather here for campus-wide micro-motions. Every full cycle, all 17 of us gather together and move exactly 34 centimeters to the left as a sign of solidarity. Except for me. On my first day here, I moved 35 centimeters to the left, just to show them Earth has spirit too. That one time. Yeah, I got suspended, twice. But anyway, this is the student union where you can find out what's happening by talking to other people. Look, there's a club fair. Do you like birdwatching? How about astroarchaeology? And yes, that is an a cappella group. This is their rehearsal space. Come in, come in. Don't be shy. They'll tear your limbs off and rearrange them in a pleasing pattern. What? No, it's fine. Go on, just go for it. Join a club. And if none of these appeal to you, you can always start your own, like I did. I founded the Vorthon Hot Wings Appreciation Club. There are currently 6 members, including myself. We meet Fridays to enjoy poultry-based snacks and discuss the merits of varying spice levels. Are you a hot wing connoisseur? Join us. We welcome all species, unless you're allergic to deliciousness. Did I mention the wings are delicious? Want to see something really cool? Follow me to the hydroponic gardens. Not only are the vegetables grown here delicious, they're sentient. And I mean really, really sentient. Did I tell you about the time when I convinced them all to commit a spud insurrection? Good times. So what's this place? This is my favorite part of campus, Engineering Bay. See? It's also the most restricted area, which means it's the best place to sneak around in after hours. There's so much to discover here. Axion reactors, gravity boots, multivitamins. But my favorite thing to tinker with are these. These bad boys are fully self-aware, combat drones equipped with cutting lasers and a strong moral compass, except without the killing part. Yeah, they're decommissioned. But think of the possibilities. With enough tinkering, they could become magnificent creatures of myth and legend. Dragons. Yeah. That's my project for this semester. A dragon suit with wings. See? I told you guys I was going to make something big. It's going to be awesome. And once I have it all put together, I'm gonna fly it right through that bubble and give everyone on this planet a little taste of home. They won't call it the Controlled Cultural Immersion Program anymore. Nah, they'll call it Chase Walker Semester. And it'll be known throughout history as the time that Earth brought a little bit of chaos to Vorthun and Vorthun. Brought a little bit of spice to Earth, and that is why. By the middle of Chase Walker's exchange semester at Vorthon University, the administration was starting to panic. Their official designation for his program was Controlled Cultural Immersion, a term that now seemed quaintly ironic. What they had unleashed was a cultural supernova. Containment protocols were breached almost immediately upon his arrival. Worthen students who once measured friendship in micromotions of tentacle gestures were now forming hangout groups. Chase taught them the art of the fist bump. He introduced them to the concept of a bro code, which they found surprisingly useful in navigating Vorthen society. Avatarius echoed with bad guitar covers of Earth music. Chase helped form a band, which he dubbed Humans in a Garage. In lieu of instruments, they used utensils, pots and pans, anything that made noise. The chef threw them out after the first week. The second week, they brought in amplifiers. Then, a Cave-Rawl engineering club reprogrammed a study drone to sing country music in binary. The music was terrible, but the sentiment was clear. The spark was spreading. And what no one knew yet was that Chase had a plan. In Engineering Bay C, between midnight snacks and prank planning, he was building something far bigger than Texatron, and this time it had wings. The university had hoped to limit the effects of the human element by assigning him a mentor. He was building a rocket. Not a functional one, at least not yet. But a symbol, a beacon, a hot rod pointed directly at the heart of Vorthon. It was also a work of art, covered in garish colors and hand-drawn pictures of Texas. He called it the Armadillo. Beneath its dented metal shell, Chase was preparing to launch something far more important than a jalopy. On the day he arrived at Vorthon, he wrote down everyone's names on a piece of paper. Every professor, every administrator, every student who gave him even the slightest bit of attitude, he wrote it all down. And then he started making armor. Not metal armor, though that would have been impressive. Instead, he made armor of paper, the same material the kids back on Earth had used to make spaceships in his day. But Chase had a few tricks up his sleeve. The armor might have looked flimsy, but it was layered, reinforced and coated with a binding agent he referred to as superglue. A substance that on Earth held together everything from broken toys to teenage hearts. The result was both hilarious and terrifying. When Chase put it on, it turned him into a walking fortress, impervious to any attack, even the crab cop's pincer grab. But that wasn't why Chase really built it. It was to attract attention, specifically the attention of the Vorthen Chancellor, a being so powerful it could expel Chase without ever meeting him. Chancellor Crayon 7. If anyone could stop Chase, it was him. So that's where Chase went, wearing his finest suit, toting his helmet, and carrying a box of donuts. Enter Professor Thorgal, the crustacean of compliance. A being so humorless and rule-abiding, he made Buzz Lightyear seem like a hugger. 8 feet tall, encased in bioceramic armor plates, and armed with 3 perfectly symmetrical brains. Thorgal had personally rewritten over 100 campus rules. Chase met him with a grin, mirrored aviators, and a box labeled Emergency Hot Wings. "You must be the crab cop," he said, popping the box open and offering one. "Want a snack, Professor?" Thorgal stared. "I do not snack." "Ah, come on. One won't kill you. Unless you're allergic to fun." Silence. Then a claw reached forward. An hour later, Chase had Thorgal watching Earth's old cowboy movies on his tablet while repeating phrases like, "I reckon that ain't T regulation." They called him Dr. Crab Daddy by week's end. The Crab Cop wasn't just immune to Chase's shenanigans. He became an enthusiastic participant. Much to the horror of the Vorthunian faculty, whose disapproval could curdle neutron star gas. Nothing in their meticulous, highly regulated world had prepared them for Chase Walker, the most dangerously enthusiastic student they had ever encountered. At first, it was just his presence. He sat in the front row of every class, eager to help others understand concepts the professors hadn't even finished explaining. In ethics class, he passionately argued for the rights of sentient toaster pastries. In astrophysics, he excitedly suggested research projects involving space photography and lasers. In xenolinguistics, he stunned the class by effortlessly imitating all 17 of the clicks, whistles and hums used by the Vorthunian language to express emotions. He aced every test, too. The administration assumed this was because Worthen grading was entirely based on adherence to regulations. Little did they know, Chase had a photographic memory. But what truly unnerved the administration wasn't just his grades or his can-do attitude. It was how fast the others were following him. Their meticulously designed buildings might have been a fortress, but Chase was playing a much longer game. Hello, younglings, gather round. It's story time. And today, we bring you the tale of the Vorthon administration. Their glorious leader, Chancellor Prox, and the day they made the grave mistake of suspending Chase Walker. You see, the Vorthon administration was pretty pleased with itself. After suspending Chase, order had been restored to their fair campus, and placed one claw on the side of the ship. Freedom birds soared through Vorthon's upper atmosphere, weaving between floating lecture halls and orbital transport lanes. Automated security drones engaged pursuit. Chase flipped a switch. Freedom bird spun, inverted, and dropped through a zero-grav pocket. The crowd below gasped. The Craft S speakers blared. This one S for every kid who ever got told to shut up in class. What valuable lesson would that be, you ask? Well, I don't know. Maybe that's something you'll have to discuss amongst yourselves. After all, a story without discussion is like a ship without a rudder. Now go forth and discuss. Then he dropped again straight into the university's central gravity well. The system was never designed for manual entry. Alarms redlined, engine cores overheated. At Mach 7, Fredo Bird skimmed the edge of the spire tower, missing the Chancellor's private observatory by 6 meters and knocking a flock of data-collecting Varu birds into a disoriented spiral. He wasn't escaping. He was painting the sky. Every turn, every dive, every flick roll was a message. Humans didn't follow your rules because we didn't come from your world, but we could still fly in it. You're making a mistake, the old warrior muttered. A glowing, burning trail of particles formed behind him. Then a message appeared, emblazoned in the night sky. We don't need permission to be awesome. Humanity, the crowd below exploded. Alien students screamed, cheered, howled, roared. Even the professors watching from behind reinforced glass let out gasps. Because in that moment, they didn't see an unruly earthling. They saw a pioneer. But it wasn't all triumph. As Freedom Bird ascended toward the atmospheric edge, its left thruster failed. The particle injector overloaded. The hull began to shake. On every broadcast screen, telemetry read. Critical failure, pilot at risk. Collision imminent. Chase's voice came through steady, but low. Well, guess I overcooked her. That's on me, eject, cried a voice over comms. I'm fine, Chase replied. Just gotta do what humans do best. What's that? Improvise. Yeah, but I'm gonna make it loud, Chase replied, grinning. I should stop you. Chase pulled open a maintenance panel mid-dive, yanked out 2 cables, spat into a fusion port, and kicked the seat with both feet while singing Sweet Home Alabama. Somehow, it worked. The ship jerked upward, stabilized, and coasted into a controlled landing across the central quad, skidding through decorative fountains, crashing into a statue of the founder and coming to rest with smoke curling from the engines. Silence. Then the cockpit opened. Chase stood, covered in soot, holding a charred piece of the control stick. 10 out of 10, he said, coughing. Would ride again? The crowd erupted. A chant started. Not in any one language, but in dozens. Chase, Chase. Even the translator drones gave up trying to explain it. You gonna? A long pause. Then the claw tapped the hull twice on ancient crustacean signal for ride or die. May your afterburners burn bright. Chase gripped the controls and yanked back. The hangar doors opened. The alarms screamed within moments. Guards scrambled. Turrets tracked motion, but they were too slow. Freedom Bird roared to life, kicked out of the magnetic cradle, and shot forward. leaving a neon contrail shaped suspiciously like a cowboy hat. The rambunctious human was off gallivanting somewhere, probably blowing up more asteroids, just as long as he did it off campus. So they got back to work, content in the knowledge that the most dangerous variable had been removed from the equation. They underestimated two things: how far Chase Walker was willing to go and how much the galaxy, without even realizing it, had been waiting for someone exactly like him. Back on Earth that same day, Chase sat alone in Engineering Bay C, staring at the belly of Freedom Bird. Around him were half-finished upgrades, overclocked gravity flaps, an untested cloaking node, and a missile bay loaded with glitter capsules, just in case. He didn't have clearance to fly. He didn't have support. He didn't even know if the thing could handle atmospheric re-entry at speed. But he had to do it. Not for glory. Not for rebellion. But because of a simple idea. Freedom isn't given. It's claimed. And no one could stop him from claiming it. Except maybe the ceiling, if the clamps failed. He powered up Freedom Bird at 0300 hours. His only companion was Thorgal, A.K., a Dr. Crabdaddy who had shown up in silence across campus. Thousands watched the chase unfold on public holly feeds. He spiraled upward into the clouds, executed a barrel roll, and triggered the dispersal valve. Freedom Bird plunged like a comet. Warnings flashed. The gravity compensators screamed. And that, younglings, is the legend of how Chase single-handedly changed the Vorthan administration and taught everyone a valuable lesson about property rights. After the flight, the entire Vorthan campus stood in stunned silence. In the center of the main courtyard sat Freedom Bird, charred, steaming, and surrounded by alien students who had camped overnight in sleeping pods and thermal blankets, refusing to leave. Faculty passed by it as if it were a shrine. He sat on a bench, arms crossed, wearing a patched-up flight suit and sunglasses held together by duct tape. Humanity's presence in the galaxy had been tentative allowed, only limited trade and technology, pending further review. Now the debate had reignited. He's a threat to structural order, argued one ambassador. He's a glimpse of what they're all like, murmured another. A third stood and played footage of Freedom Bird, soaring above a glowing crowd of alien youth, chanting Chase's name. "This isn't chaos," she said. "This is what leadership looks like. Before it knows it's leading." In the end, the Concord didn't vote to punish Earth. They voted to accelerate its inclusion. The rationale? Any species capable of inspiring unity through madness must be treated as a primary cultural force. Humanity was upgraded to Tier 3 observer status, a seat at the table, full academic rights. Trade privileges expanded. Embassies opened. Earth had arrived. Not with diplomacy, not with peace treaties, but with personality. Someone handed him a breakfast burrito. He took a bite, looked into the camera, and said, "Y'all ready to talk about why I did it?" Several offers of interspecies dates, and a formal invitation to return. As a lecturer, as he boarded the shuttle home, a crowd waited, thousands of students and faculty, holding signs and glorbs. Even Chancellor Jarn was there, holding a coffee mug that read, "I survived the Earthling semester." Thorgal stepped forward. The great crab warrior saluted. "You brought disorder," he said, "and somehow we needed it." Chase grinned. "Time I bring fireworks." He paused at the top of the ramp, turned around, and looked at the sea of faces, every shape, color, species, all of them cheering. One final thought drifted from his lips. "Y'all better buckle up." Then he was gone. The shuttle roared into orbit. Billions tuned in. His message was simple. We don't fly perfect. Of a race that treated danger like sport and fear like a challenge. Of a student who showed the universe that dignity didn't require silence and that failure could be fuel. Alien youth wore Earth jackets. Diplomats began using sarcasm in formal hearings. A planetary leader once paused during war talks and said, "What would Chase Walker do?" No one knew the answer, but they all smiled when they asked. Because they knew this wasn't the end. It was just the first ride. Humanity was no longer a curiosity. It was the wild card in the deck. And somewhere, deep in space, a new model of Freedom Birdsleeker, faster and somehow louder, was being built. Because the galaxy had changed, and it would never be boring again. We fly loud, we crash, we get up. That's Earth. That's us. He didn't give speeches, he told stories. About the human who glued feathers to their arms to mimic birds. About the janitor who solved a math problem left on a chalkboard for fun. About kids in garages building rockets out of soda bottles. About failure and what it teaches that success never will. I'm not here to be the best, he said. I'm here to try things no one's stupid enough to try. A Korthax ambassador watching from orbit whispered, they were right to fear them. A Jarnathi scholar responded, no, they were wrong to dismiss them. Security drones hovered nearby, but didn't move in. No one dared. Inside the Chancellor's office, the High Council of Vorthon Prime argued in over a dozen simultaneous languages. He violated airspace, barked the head of systems enforcement. He also performed a 1,4G dive through a neutron-cored cloud layer with a smile. Added a cybernetic professor from Krelthar 5. The maneuver shouldn't be physically possible. He mocked every rule we hold sacred. He inspired every student we thought apathetic. He's dangerous. He's necessary. Arguments raged. Some called for expulsion. Others demanded he be named a visiting professor. Some feared him. Others adored him. One delegate simply stared out the window at the skywriting from the night before. We don't need permission to be awesome, still visible in glowing particles. Finally, the Chancellor stood. She had aged 40 years in a day. We invited a human, she said slowly, and expected to understand them. She gestured to the window. But we didn't get a student. We got a spark. Meanwhile, Chase Walker was being interviewed by 7 different newspheres and a floating drone operated by an entertainment company that specialized in galactic misfits. The Galactic Concord met that week in a special closed session. Back at Vorthon, Chase prepared to leave. His bags were filled with souvenirs, alien snacks, fan art, a plushie of Texatron, deluxe edition. Months later, stories spread through the stars. Of a small blue planet where people solved problems by making more interesting ones.